When I woke up from spinal surgery, barely able to sit up, my head foggy from anesthesia, the last thing I expected was a stranger in my kitchen, sipping coffee like she owned my house. Margaret, the HOA president, stood there in her pristine blazer, flipping through a stack of papers and chatting with a locksmith about changing my locks. My brother, Tom, stormed in, his voice shaking with rage. "Who are you, and why are you in my sister's house?" Her answer was so outrageous, it set off a chain of events that would unravel a conspiracy and change our neighborhood forever. I'm Ellen, 52, and I'd been battling chronic back pain from degenerative disc disease for years. The surgery was my last hope for a pain-free life, planned months in advance. Tom was staying at my place in our quiet suburban neighborhood outside Charlotte, North Carolina, to feed my cat and keep things in order while I recovered. Our HOA had always been a nuisance finding people for minor things like untrimmed hedges or off-color shutters, but I never imagined they'd stoop to something this sinister. Less than a day after my surgery, I called Tom to check in and heard chaos in the background. He whispered, "You won't believe this, Ellen. Some woman says she owns your house now." Through a video call, I saw Margaret waving a notarized deed, claiming I'd sold her my home while I was under anesthesia. My heart raced. I hadn't signed anything. I could barely hold a pen in the hospital. I told Tom to call the police and not let her touch a thing. When the officers arrived, Margaret handed them a packet with a deed transfer dated the day of my surgery. The officer frowned. "You were unconscious that day, right?" I nodded, explaining I'd been out cold for hours. He said we need to settle this legally unless we could prove forgery. Margaret chimed in, claiming I'd emailed her about downsizing and offered her a deal because I admired her HOA leadership. Tom nearly choked laughing. Leadership? She'd once fined me for a mailbox that was too reflective. She showed the police emails, but they were from a fake address one letter off from mine full of phrases I'd never use, like, "Let's seal this deal with a smile." I called my lawyer, David, a no-nonsense real estate attorney with 20 years of experience. He spotted the issue immediately. The notary stamp belonged to someone who died 3 years ago. "This isn't just sloppy," David said. "It's criminal." Against medical advice, I checked out of the hospital, strapped in a back brace, and met David at the county clerk's office. The clerk confirmed the deed was uploaded online, which was odd. Our county required in-person filings unless you had a verified government login. Margaret didn't. When we traced the IP address, it led straight to the HOA's Wi-Fi. This wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated scam. Tom, meanwhile, turned our house into Fort Knox, locking gates and posting a sign. "Not for sale. Owner recovering. Beware of fraud." Margaret didn't stop. That night, she returned with 2 men in fake security vests, claiming to inspect her property. Tom recorded her shouting, "That deed is legal. You're trespassing." David sent the footage to the district attorney's office, along with the fake emails, a dead notary stamp, and IP evidence. This was no longer just about my house. It was identity theft, real estate fraud, maybe even racketeering. The story exploded when a neighbor posted a clip of the confrontation on social media. It went viral, with thousands of comments calling Margaret a suburban con artist. The DA's office, led by prosecutor Lisa Harper, dug deeper. They found 3 other suspicious property transfers linked to Margaret: an elderly couple's home, a rental unit, and a widow's house, all transferred under shady circumstances. Lisa called it a pattern, not a one-off. "She's not just greedy," David said. "She's running a scheme." Tom reviewed our home security footage and found a bombshell. Days before my surgery, Margaret met a young notary assistant at a cafe, slipping her an envelope. The assistant later admitted to taking a bribe to sign a blank document, thinking it was for an elderly relative's will. She was devastated when she learned the truth. Then, a former HOA board member, Susan, reached out anonymously. She'd seen the viral video and brought unrecorded meeting minutes showing Margaret's community consolidation plan, targeting vulnerable residents like me for property grabs. Investigators raided Margaret's home and the HOA office, seizing her laptop, phone, and files. They found a spreadsheet labeled 2024 Property Goals, listing my house with notes like "surgery confirmed" and "files ready." It was a hit list. Margaret posted a defiant video, claiming she was a victim of jealous neighbors. The backlash was brutal. One commenter wrote, "You're not a leader. You're a thief in a pantsuit. The trial was a spectacle. Neighbors, reporters, and even law students packed the courtroom. Margaret strutted in, dressed like she was headed to a gala, but her confidence cracked as David presented evidence. Hospital logs proved I was unconscious when the deed was signed. A forensic analyst exposed a deep fake feed. Margaret claimed showed me agreeing to the sale, spliced from an old interview. The notary assistant's tearful testimony sealed her fate. I didn't know she'd steal a woman's home. Susan testified about Margaret's secret meetings, producing memos where she mocked vulnerable homeowners. The jury saw a recording of Margaret bragging, "It's not fraud if they don't catch you." After a swift deliberation, she was found guilty of real estate fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. The judge sentenced her to 25 years, with parole possible after 15. Lisa announced more charges against 4 HOA board members for similar scams. The aftermath was seismic. The HOA board collapsed under subpoenas and resignations. A class action lawsuit, led by David, won compensation for 25 residents harassed by fake fines and threats. The HOA was placed under county oversight, with open meetings and no more petty citations. I declined a board seat, choosing to focus on healing. My garden bloomed, my back improved, and our street felt alive again. Kids on bikes, neighbors chatting without fear. One day, I got a letter from Margaret in prison, blaming everyone but herself and begging me to support her parole. I tucked it away unanswered. Months later, a new family moved into a house Margaret had targeted. They laughed when I shared the story, saying, "She picked the wrong woman to mess with." That night, I sat on my porch, sipping tea, watching the sunset. My home was mine, my name was on the deed, and Margaret's was now a cautionary tale. This wasn't just about justice. It was about reclaiming our lives from someone who saw weakness as opportunity. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you faced injustice or abuse of power in your community? How far would you go to fight back? Share your stance. Let's start a conversation about standing up to bullies and protecting what's yours.